ABC investigative journalist Andrew Fowler reported on the Wikileaks founder late last year and is writing a book on the man and his motives. He sat through Julian Assange's court hearings in London and he joins me now. Andrew Fowler, what was the atmosphere in the court hearing?
Oh, one of great apprehension and expectation. You had about 50 journalists packed into this courtroom. You had Julian Assange in a glass cage to the right-hand side in the public gallery behind the journalists. It was quite extraordinary, and a lot of time was taken up waiting for the magistrate to arrive, and so the tension was building.
You've spent serious time with Julian Assange. You were due to interview him again for the book when all this blew up. How tough is he? Because I would imagine he's under tremendous strain right now.
He has an extraordinary capacity for work and focus. And I think it's that work and focus that you've seen, the ability to move the Afghan material, the Iraq material, and then the 650,000 cables, and at the same time keep Wikileaks on air while it's under a denial of service attack, was quite extraordinary.
How do you summarise him in terms of what drives him? Because the prominent writer and commentator Christopher Hitchin has described him as a micro-megalomaniac with few, if any, scruples.
Well, he's a romantic loner, an idealist. Excuse me. And I don't know that Hitchens actually has met him, but if he has, then that's his view. I don't think megalomaniac is the way I describe him. Excuse me, it's a bit of a late night and an early morning for me. But I think that he's motivated. And he's driven. I mean, he's driven to create the kind of world that Assange wants, which is an open, transparent form of government where people take part in decision-making. And so what he said to me was, look, the governments make decisions. They don't tell the people what the evidence is that they've reached to make these decisions. And the people have a right to know. Particularly, he was concerned about the Iraq war. And he said, look, you know, the Iraq war is a good example of just how the people were lied to. And I think there's no doubt that that was the case. So that's one of his motivating forces, is to reveal all so people can make up their own minds.
Julian Assange wrote an article for The Australian today in which he likened himself to Rupert Murdoch's father, Sir Keith, exposing British incompetence at Gallipoli. Does he see himself in grandiose terms?
Look, I think he sees himself as somebody who can make a difference in the world and change the world. Whether that's grandiose terms or not, I'm not sure. I don't think you can really imagine him becoming a Rupert Murdoch, although he does have some of these sort of the tycoon capabilities, the ability to work long hours and focus. He does have trouble relating to people. I mean, he actually gets on very well with people, but with the workload and the focus and the way that he wants to run things, very much like Murdoch in many ways, he wants his own way, and so he puts people offside.
And all of this started with a somewhat anarchic group of young hackers in Melbourne years ago.
Yeah, called the International Subversives, and they hacked their way into a number of particularly US military installations, and they say they did no harm, they made no changes to anything that they saw. But that was their way of, I suppose, dealing with the world, is what they told me. They said, look, you know, the world was a pretty frightening place. Reagan was in the White House. We were minutes from Armageddon. And they wanted to somehow not be victims. And that's what they were about.
Well, Andrew is doing the right thing by you with your book, although he's created a nightmare for you and exactly at what point you think you're going to finish it. But thanks for joining us tonight.
My pleasure, Kerry.